Hi friends, today we'll discuss an important current affairs, that is India's G20 presidency. India formally takes the responsibility of the presidency of the G20 or the Group 20. So from 1st December 2022, December 2022 to the November 30, 2023, India holds the presidency over G20 group, and in the year 2023, at the end of year 2023, probably in the month of October, India will host the G20 group in India, and India has taken that presidency from the Indonesia, and India is going to give the presidency to the Brazil. It has taken from Indonesia and it is going to given to the Brazil. So this is, though it is a recurring in nature, that means by rotation India gets the presidency of the G20, but still it is a opportunity for India to showcase itself, and it is an opportunity for India to define a global narrative, and also it is an opportunity for India to provide some sort of solutions to the global humanity. That is why it is very important, and it comes under paper 2 of our GS. Normally in international relations you may get a question on this. So before I enter into the India's presidency of G20 and what are the opportunities for India and how India is going to change the narrative, what are the focused areas, let me spend some time on the Group 20 or the G20. Later we can enter into the India specific responsibilities with this group. So this G20 group has started in the year 1999, aftermath of this Asian economic crisis. So in the Southeast Asian countries in the year 1997, they have experienced a crisis, and that crisis has its own impact on the world, and to mitigate or to stop those type of financial problems, the world leaders, the major world leaders come together and they have started finding out sustainable solutions to make a global economy stronger. So with that intention, we have started the group in the year 1999. When we have started this group in the year 1999, it was focused mostly on this economic and financial matters, the economic stability, financial stability, so mostly on economic and financial. But later this group has transformed it into a wider group with much more responsibilities and ambit. Initially when we started this group in the year 1999, it is the only central bank governors and finance ministers of the 20 countries used to meet, and they used to discuss about the global financial condition and the global economic stability. But after 2008 crisis, since 2008, the head of the state or the head of the government has also started participating in the summits. So prior to 2008, it was only the summits of finance ministers and the central bank governors, but since 2008, it has become the summit of the head of states, and the ambit has gradually shifted from the financial and economic aspect to the political aspect also. Now it is a forum for economic, financial and political cooperation of the major developed and developing groups of the world. And in this G20, you are having both developed and developing countries. Developed and developing. In this total 20, 19 countries are there and one European Union. So this is the 20, and the countries are represented from all the continents. It has its own representation from North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia and Australia. So this is about the countries of G20, and the names of these countries are important because it was already asked in UPSC prelims. So which of the following group is not part of G20? That means they have given 4 or 5 countries together as one option. So that is important. Now this group has lot of significance, though it is having only 20 members, and in that EU is a group, it is not a single entity, single country. But this group represents 80% of the gross world product. That means if you are looking into the overall world's GDP, in that 80% is contributed by this 20. So 80% of gross world product, and 75% of the international trade is happening through this country. And if you are looking into the population, the 2/3 of population is residing in this country. So it is a major group which represents both in terms of population, in terms of economic activity, that means production, and also in terms of trade. And if you are looking into the number of summits, I think since 2008 the head of the summits, prior to that the finance minister summits have happened, but since 2008 17 summits are concluded with recent Indonesia's Bali summit. The next summit is the 18th summit that is going to happen in India, and the 17 summits have brought lot of changes, and for lot of problems we are able to find out some sort of solutions, and we are able to bring some sort of attention from the global humanity and the different countries on major issues. And when you are looking into these 20 countries, these 20 countries are divided into 5 groups. These 20 countries are divided into 5 groups, and every year the summit will be in one region, that means one group's region. Now when the summits are happening, all these 20 members will present, and apart from these 20 members, there are some invitees to these meetings also. Spain is a permanent invitee to this, and apart from that there are some invitees because this G20 group collaborate with some of the global institutions and even some of the regional groupings also. Global groupings like some of the institutions like World Bank, IMF, Food and Agriculture Organization, World Trade Organization, World Health Organization. These are some of the global institutions that will take part of G20 meet, and apart from that some of the groups like African Union, ASEAN will also take participation in the G20 groups. They do not have any voting right, but still they will participate in the deliberations. And Financial Stability Board, International Labour Organization, Financial Stability Board, like these are some of the and even the major one, United Nations, the representative of the United Nations will also present here. So though it is a 20-member group, but it has its own invitees to present in the deliberations of the meeting, and that includes from the global institutions to some of the regional groupings also. And apart from this there are some outreach groups. Outreach groups in the sense, though they are not members of the G20, but the country in which the summit is held, they can invite these countries, let it be some least developed countries, or let it be some of the countries which are not part of the G20 group, and if that country thinks like that particular issue is going to impact some of the countries, definitely they will invite. So they will take part of the discussion, and that is how these G20 summits will be held. And one thing, the agreements or the decisions that are going to take in G20 meeting, they do not have any legal backing. That means they don't have any legal validity. That means it is not legally compulsory for every country to implement the decisions taken at the G20, but as the group is having its own significance, it certainly influences the policy of the different countries of the world and also members of the G20. So there is no legal backing, but still it can influence the policies of the world countries because of its own economic and political significance, and also the geopolitics associated with these countries and the regions in which they present. Now another thing is, it's not only the G20 countries, that means heads of the state, but there are some other groups which discuss on various issues from these 20 countries. Normally G20 summit means we think like, okay, it's a summit of the head of the states, that means the prime minister or presidents, and normally they meet once in a year. But apart from that, we are having the G20 meets of finance ministers, that is continuing, and apart from that there are many meetings like Y20 group. That means young leaders from the 20 countries will come and they will sit and they will discuss something about the youth affairs of the 20 countries and the whole world on overall. And also we are having W20 like Women 20 group, a woman representative from the 20 countries, and U20 like the urban cities from the 20 countries. They'll come and they'll try to discuss about how can we improve the urban administration and how we can develop the urban areas. And T20 groups like think tank from the 20 countries, they will also discuss. And there is a C20 group, civil society 20 groups. And also there is a L20 groups important. This is trade unions and labor organizations of the 20 countries will come and will discuss how we can improve the safety, social safety and the working conditions of the labor class across the world and especially in G20. And also the another important is B20 group, business 20. So how we can improve the business environment and the challenges, opportunities, and even we can have science 20 groups. So how can we improve the science? And India is going to start another group, like because now the presidency is with India, startup 20. That means startups from the 20 countries, they come and they will sit and they will discuss the challenges, opportunities, problems, and also the type of incentive that are necessary and the encouragement or facilitation from the government side, and how the startups can collaborate across the world. Like on those issues they are going to discuss. So these are the different type of groups a part of G20 group. Now all these summits are going to be held in India, and on overall in the next 1 year, that means from the 1st December to the November 30, that means by the completion of the summit, around 200 meetings that are going to happen in India in more than 50 plus locations. In more than 50 plus locations, 200 summits are going to held, and these 200 summits are participated by the 20 different G20 countries, and apart from that representative from the different organization regional grouping, and also from the other countries, that is what I said, outreaching group. If India is interested, definitely it will invite. And especially when we are discussing about the developing world, India will invite the other developing countries and also least developed countries, and also the countries, island countries. Suppose if you are discussing about any environment and climate change, definitely we will invite them. So that means the representative across the world are going to present in India for next 1 year to attend the different summits under this G20. So, and there is another thing called the Troika group. So this Troika group is part of G20. So what is this Troika? Troika means who is the present president to the G20, the present one, and who is the previous one, and who is the future, that means the next president. So this group you call it as Troika group. That means what we discussed in the previous meeting must be carried forward to this meeting and also must be take to the next level. That is why some sort of coordination, a high coordination is required between these three countries, and this Troika group change from year to year because the country changes. No, now if you are looking into the previous, it is Indonesia, and the present is India, and the future is Brazil. And if you looking into this Troika group, These three are developing countries. These three are developing countries, and they represents the developing world, and mostly they are of global south, because normally the northern countries, the global northern countries are developed, but when it comes to the global southern countries, they are not that developed. That's why we wanted, that means if these countries continuously, that means if they are in a sequence, they are holding the presidency of the G20, certainly they can influence the G20 decisions which favors the developing world, which also favors the global south. That is why this Troika group is also very significant this year, very significant. So this is one thing we need to understand. And when we are discussing the G20, normally how the discussions will happen. See, here there are major three tracks are there. We call it as track, TRACK. So first one is financial track. Financial track. Second one is Sherpa track. Second one is Sherpa track. Third one is, it's a normally a consultative group, there is no specific thing but some consultation. So what is this financial track, what is the Sherpa track, and what is this the consultation thing? See, first of all, under financial track, normally it is the central bank governors and finance minister, they will try to discuss about the financial and economic aspects of the G20 countries. Like it can be a financing for infrastructure, or let it be financial stability of the financial institutions, or let it be financing for healthcare infrastructure, or let it be how to take this development forward, that means a sustainable developmental aspects, sustainable investments, and also the credit needs, that to a cheaper credit needs for the development of the world. So like this they will discuss it on the financial and economic aspects, and normally it is include the economists and the central bank governors and finance ministers present in it. Second one is the Sherpa group, Sherpa track. Sherpa track means the Sherpas are appointed. Sherpa is, it's a representative of a government, and each and every head of the state appoint one Sherpa to the G20. So now the 20 Sherpas will represent 20 countries. It is directly appointed by the head of the state. It is directly appointed by the head of the state, and the Sherpas will try to discuss more issues that include financial matters, that include non-financial, that means political matters. And this is one of the most powerful, and the Indian Sherpa was Amitabh Kant, is a former CEO of Niti Aayog, appointed by the Prime Minister or India's Prime Minister. Likewise, we are having the 20 Sherpas, and this very crucial group, and India, the Sherpa first meet has already done on 4th December 2022 at Udaipur. So we have already given an agenda like what India want to contribute to the world with this G20 group in the next 1 year. And the another one is this consultation group or engagement group, and we can also call it as work stream. So there are some other groups, so they will try to discuss about various issues, but these two are the major, financial track and Sherpa track. So this is how the G20 works. This is how G20 works. But when it comes to the presidency of India in the year 2022 and 23, because it is going to concluded in 2023 with a summit. Next we will hand it over to the Brazil. But there is a significance, to this particular meet. Not that India is taking the responsibility of the chairmanship, but if you looking into the world is facing some serious challenges. And at this critical juncture, India is taking the responsibility of directing, or can I say facilitating, the whole world with some sort of sustainable solutions. India is going to provide it. Now what are the conditions under which India is taking the G20? So these conditions are, you can call it as challenges, we can see. So what are the conditions? See, if you looking into, the world is now recovering from the global pandemic. The world is recovering from global pandemic. And if you see China, again the cases are increasing. Still, the vaccine is not fully accessible to many countries in the world. Okay, some countries, yes, they are vaccinated fully. And if you take the case of India, yes, double vaccination completed, and even some people are taking third dose also. But some people, especially in the African continent, they are not fully accessible to the vaccines. And still the people are facing lot of problem in the post COVID-19 scenario, whether it is related to inflation, whether it is related to the reduced employment, whether it is related to inequalities. So these are some of the problems. And second one is the global economic recovery. Global economic recovery. So the economy is recovering, and some people are projecting like there may be a recession if you don't take the steps properly. And some countries, because of the taper, and now because of the taper tantrum, some of the developing countries are severely affected because of that. And inflation in majority of the countries is very high. Yes, so we are recovering. So definitely we must take some proactive steps to make sure that it must recover sustainably. Next, again the major important thing is this Russia-Ukraine war. Russia-Ukraine war. Our Prime Minister already said this is not an age of war, this is an age of cooperation, but still there are no signs to end this Russia-Ukraine war, and because of this Russia-Ukraine war, the global supply chains are get disrupted. There is a problem of, let it be edible oils, problem of wheat, problem of some of the minerals, and especially the crude oil. And almost all the countries of the world got impacted because of Russia-Ukraine war in one or other way. And now still it is going on. Next, climate change and another issue, because this climate change, though we have completed the recent meeting of COP27 in Egypt, but still the world is facing a problem of this climate change. And if you looking into the different countries, they are severely affecting either with cyclones or with heat waves or with the forest fires or with floods or with sea level rise. Like there are many problems are there, and because of this climate change, the productivity in the agriculture and animal husbandry is coming down, the productivity of the human beings are reducing, and there is huge internal migration within the country, and it has affected lot of people's livelihood. So this is what the climate change is affecting the entire globe. And if you looking into, there is a tendency of deglobalization. Some countries now they are talking about a different language. That means they don't want this globalization to continue. Globalization work to the disadvantage of those countries. So they wanted to build a national level barriers, but some people are advocating that is not a good sign, but still. So when some countries are talking about the deglobalization, when the country want to build a barriers to their economy, definitely it's a challenging task for a country, for a group like G20. Definitely we need to bring some sort of solution to the problems of those countries, and also try to streamline the process of globalization. And this divide, that means the polarization is very high. Now almost all the countries, they are polarized. That means they are either eastern countries or western countries, or northern group or southern group, like that. So this polarization, deglobalization, climate change, Russia-Ukraine conflict, economic recovery, global pandemic, and even the inequalities that are persisting. And if you see the Oxfam report recently, you can understand the growing digital divide and the growing economic divide. These are all facing, these are all the problems that the world is facing. And in this critical juncture, that India is conducting this G20, India has taken over the presidency of this G20 group. Now, the previous 17 summits have given some sort of result on some issues, and it has also brought some sort of attention of the whole world into some issues like the macroeconomic global stability, rationalization of the international taxes, and relieving the debt burden of some of the countries, sustainable development, climate mitigation. They have brought the attention of all the countries towards these issues. Now India need to continue the same. Now with this particular G20 meeting, what India is going to contribute and what India is going to gain. These are two important things. So how we need to understand the importance of G20 for India. Okay, the context we understood, but how it is going to benefit, or how India's role or how India's responsibility is going to be performed in the next 1 year. So in this, if you looking into, there are some major 6 to 7 areas are there. One is India can fix the broader agenda for the global development or global welfare, a broad agenda for the global welfare, and India can clearly create a global narrative. That means what world's approach towards some particular issues, because those issues are impacting the whole humanity. Suppose let it be, take the case of health, take the case of agriculture, sustainable agriculture, how education must reach to everyone, global skill mapping. That means some people are skilled in one country but they are not getting employment, but other country is ready to provide the employment but they are not getting the enough skill set. So how this global skill mapping should happen, and global supply chain disruption that happened, and how a global supply chain should be strengthened, and how we must depoliticize some of the global supply chains. Because if suddenly war happen, should it really impact the global supply chain? That too very essential things like agriculture, medicine, fertilizers, food products. Should it really get disturbed? So the point is that the idea of depoliticizing some of the global supply chains of some products, like let it be food, fertilizer, medicines, and also again the climate change aspect, and also the food security and energy security, that is very important for the world. And also let it green energy, it is very important, and especially a new upcoming fuels like hydrogen fuel, how we need to move forward on it. And also the disaster risk mitigation, because now the disaster has become very common because of human intervention and also because of the natural calamities. And another thing is tourism. Yes, there is a huge potential to develop, and how we can promote the tourism across the world. And because of some political, because of some environmental, because of some war issues, military conflicts, people are migrating from one country to another country. This is very dangerous thing. And yes, we are having some humanity, but the country's resources don't permit to beyond a particular number. So the reasons for the migration, how to mitigate these migrations, and also the tax evasions, because some of the multinational companies they are good at doing these tax evasions, and also geopolitical conflicts, peace, denuclearization, de-weaponization, small businesses, startups, the new emerging areas like gig economy, sustainable development goals, very important, how we need to achieve. Because of pandemic there was a halt because countries are reeling under economic pressure, so but now they are recovering it. Then how we need to focus on sustainable development goals. So these are all on a broader area, these are all the main areas where the world has to create a narrative, and in creating that narrative India can definitely play an important role, because as a president of G20 it can put forward its own ideas and it can convince the members of G20. If the G20 people come to a particular type of narrative or conclusion, definitely the world will accept it. So the point is India will have a an opportunity to set a broad agenda or a global narrative for some of the problems that the world is facing. Okay, next one. So that is an agenda. Next one is the India can find some sort of sustainable solutions to some of the problems. India cannot solve all the problems that the world is facing in 1 year. It can certainly set an agenda, it can create a narrative, but definitely India can provide some sort of sustainable solutions. That is why our Prime Minister said the India's presidency is, let it be, it must include inclusiveness, ambitious, decisive and action oriented. So we must be action oriented, we must be decisive, we must take the decision, and our decision must be inclusive, and we must be ambitious to solve some of the problems. We may not solve every problem, but yes, and now India is specifically focusing on some of the problems like how to implement the sustainable development goals and also the digital public infrastructure. So on these areas we are focusing more. There are some other areas, but these are the major two areas where we wanted to provide some sustainable solutions to the world. Next one. So when we are giving some solutions to the world countries, definitely we must establish or we must showcase the India's sustainable solutions to some of the problems which India has already identified or which already India is under implementation. Because you want to give a solution, but have you implemented it? Do you have any idea over it? Do you have any experience in implementing it? Yes, India is having lot of experience in solving some of the problems. Let us take some of the methods, some of the solutions that India has offered to solve some of the problems. The same problems are affecting the globe also. That means the different countries. See, take the case of renewable energy. Now India's solutions. So it will showcase India's solutions and also it will incentivize the different countries to adopt the solution that India has adopted. Take the case of renewable energy. We promised something at Paris and now we reached it, and now we are in excess of what we have promised. Again we have changed our goals, we have increased our goals, and see the level of solar energy production, see the level of promotion of electric vehicles, see the promotion of hydrogen energy, see the promotion of ethanol blending, how fast we are moving, and our target is to generate 500 gigawatts of renewable energy. And in our total energy mix, 50% will be by the renewable energy by 2030. That is our global ambition. And when it comes to the adoption, and India has started and our Prime Minister has given a call for life. That means life means life for environment. So you must change your lifestyle according to the environment. So this is another mission, and even India has shown to the world, like we have brought a collaboration of the international collaboration of the different countries through International Solar Alliance and Coalition for Disaster Resilience Infrastructure. That means in promoting greener energy, in adapting to the changing climate, how to mitigate the effect of climate change. So India has already shown, definitely this India can advise to the world or the G20 countries. And take the case of the digitization, how digitization has helped the common man. See the financial inclusion, see the DBT, see the online transactions, see how we are implemented in e-governance, and see how FASTag is implemented to collect the toll taxes from the public without delay or without much wastage of time and energy. And see the CoWIN open source platform to track the people who are affected with the COVID-19 disease, and as well as how to implement the vaccination perfectly. And even we can show ourselves like how we are implementing Ayushman Bharat in providing the health insurance facilities to the people, that to the lower strata of the society. And when it comes to the environment, yes, the arrangement of LED bulbs, It was so successful scheme. And also how we have reduced the cholas. That means the cholas means the normal stoves used by the women in the kitchen. And under the Ujjwala scheme, how we have started providing the clean cooking fuel to the women, and how we have started hydrogen mission, and how we have showed our path to the world during the COVID-19 with our vaccine manufacturing, vaccine diplomacy, and vaccine supply to the different countries, and the structural reforms that what we have brought in the Indian economy, and also the startup ecosystem how we developed over a period of time. So these are all the solutions that India can certainly offer to the world. And by offering these solutions to the world, definitely India will have a goodwill among the different countries. So it's an opportunity, and India will have an opportunity to showcase. Again, India must ensure that the G20 coordination between the G20 group and some of the global institutions like United Nations, IMF, World Bank, WTO, WHO is important, because G20 group alone cannot solve all the problems. There are already some specialized institutions in the world, they are having the responsibility in implementing some decisions. Now, if you bring the coordination and cooperation between the G20 groups or the decisions taking at G20 and the global institutions, definitely the decisions taken will come into action. So the fostering of the bondage or the coordination between the India and G20 along with the other global financial institution is very crucial for bringing sustainable solutions. That is one important responsibility of India. Its cultural heritage to the world. And only, okay, some aspects are known to the foreign countries, but do you think that foreigners knows everything? Because there is a lot of cultural heritage and a rich diversity of cultural heritage is there in India. That's why our Prime Minister has given a call, let it have a meetings at 50 different locations, and he also met with all political parties. He wanted like India must be exposed to the world, and unexposed areas must be brought to the notice of the world. Let the world understand what India is. So this is also one thing, and this is how we can really promote our soft power. Soft power. And next one. So this is about the soft power. Now by exposing India to the world with our better administrative practices, with our new innovative policies, with our business friendly environment, certainly we can attract the investments from the foreign countries. It will be a boon to the businessmen, the business people, when they are discussing with the business groups of the foreign country, certainly they can increase the collaboration. And some of the countries in the world like China, they are not exactly suitable to the production process because of some other reason. So the industrial base is shifting from China. Definitely India can make use of it through the G20. So this is how India can attract the investment. This is how it will be helpful for the India's growth story. So this is another opportunity. Next one is, when it comes to the India specific problem, so India is facing some specific problem at the global level. Certainly we can highlight those issues, like let it be the representation of the global institutions, the representation in some of the global institutions, like let it be IMF, let it be World Bank, let it be United Nations Security Council. See, they are mostly dominated by only few. If you looking into the IMF and World Bank, okay, the Western countries are having the major the vote share and the major the share in the functioning of IMF and World Bank. Let us take the case of United Nations Security Council. Yes, that is only a monopoly of 5 countries. So certainly India can put its own view on behalf of India and on behalf of the developing countries and on behalf of the global south. Yes, the importance of reforming some of the institutions, because it is in the interest of India, and also the problems that India is facing at some forums like World Trade Organization, and the India is facing some problems with its neighbors, like let it be the freedom of maritime freedom. So maritime freedom, because some countries are not allowing the other countries to travel in the international waters, and some countries are creating artificial islands like China. So this maritime freedom certainly you can bring to the notice of the world. And even when it comes to the terrorism, yes, this is another important issue where India is raising this issue in every forum. Certainly you can raise, and you can bring an awareness among the different countries, like how India is the victim of terrorism and what type of sustainable solution that you can bring. So likewise, it can focus on the challenges that India is facing, and it can bring it to the notice of the G20 countries, that means the whole world. Because if something is brought to the notice of G20, certainly the world will take a note of these issues. And next one is, yes, so there is a bigger responsibility to India as a global player, like represent behalf of the developing world and also the global south. So this is another thing. So this is an opportunity for India to become a global leader of at least some countries. So definitely, so these are some of the opportunities that India is going to get through this G20 meeting, So if you understand the importance of the 7 points, then certainly you can understand the importance of the G20 meet. Now, so once you understand the importance of the G20 meet and how India is going to provide the sustainable solutions, or how India showcase itself to the world, now there are some challenges associated with this G20 group. One thing is the challenges, though there is no legal backing, but still it can influence the public policy, and it can influence the policies of the world countries, that I said. But the point is, no legal backing to that, there is no compulsion to implement the decisions taken here, and there is no certainly a framework to monitor the implementation of the decisions taken at the G20. Will it be like only a discussion, or will it something like become fruitful, or will it enter into an action phase? So that is the one thing. Second one is, when it comes to the representation, there is no wider representation. That means many countries, they don't have a representation. Only 19 countries plus one group is having the representation. Remaining countries don't have any representation. This is another challenge. Now the important thing is, the world is completely polarized, everyone is having their own interest, and they are taking the decision based on their own interest. But for the well-being of the global humanity, in G20, if India tries to bring a solution, will it really be accepted by all the countries? Because every country runs with their own interest. So how to synthesize the diverse views? This is another challenge. How to synthesize the diverse views or diverse opinions from the different countries? How we need to? This is one more challenge. So these are some of the challenges that the G20 group is going to face, and these are the challenges that India will also going to face. But how India is really going to manage these challenges and how it will put forward its own ideas to the world, that is very, very important. And one more thing we need to understand, as our Prime Minister rightly said, the theme of this G20, our India's G20 is Vasudaika Kutumbakam. Vasudaika Kutumbakam means, and the theme they have written it in English, one earth, one family and one future. One earth, one family, one future. So this is the theme for the G20 that India is going to host. So under this theme, this translates into Vasudaika Kutumbakam. That means the whole universe is one, and definitely we need to protect it, we need to preserve it, and we need to take this whole universe together to the future. So, one earth, we are one, and we are one family, we need to coordinate, and we have to decide our common future. And if you looking into the world, according to the Prime Minister, unfortunately, there are there is a resource scarcity in the world, and for our survival, we have deprived the resources for somebody. This is what happened on the name of competition for so many decades. So, for our own survival, we have deprived somebody, but no, even though the resources are scarce, we need to share the resources in such a way that we should treat like a family and will take our future together to the next level. That is what he said. And we need to bring some sort of unity, unanimity, consensus on some of the core issues, because that is very, very important. And we must understand, like, our challenges are common. Let it be terrorism, let it be tax evasion, let it be climate change, anything. Our challenges are common, but we must understand our opportunities are also common. And when we are utilizing that opportunities, we must coordinate, we must cooperate with each other. And India's presidency will be a presidency of healing, a presidency of harmony, and a presidency of hope. So, and let us work together to shape a new paradigm, that is human-centric globalization, a globalization with human-centric. And let us hope that this presidency of India's presidency to G20 will bring some sort of hope and some sort of harmony and some sort of healing and prosperity to the world. Thank you.
Amrita IAS Academy.